Phil, who are the top winners and how exactly are they winning?
Well, the Obama administration has tried to lay claim to being victorious on the national security and diplomatic fronts. The clear winner on the economic front is Iran itself. Look, it's the $388 billion economy. 2012, 2013 were very rough years for growth for them. It started to tick up, but by 2016, the Iranian economy expected to grow at about 6% rate. That's according to the Institute of International Finance when that sanctions relief starts to kick in. So Iran itself is a big winner on this as the U.S. starts to ratchet back on those restrictions. Another thing you have to look at here is European nations. Now, European nations were trading at a level of about $32 billion per year with Iran before these sanctions really kicked in 2012. That number dropped to about $9 billion. One of the key components of the administration's argument for this deal is European nations, most notably Italy and Germany, have been chomping at the bit to restart trade with Iran. They've already had trade delegations in the country to restart talks with them. And so the expectation is European nations will quickly tick up again on that. Mark, you mentioned individual industries. I think that's the other one you have to look at. Inside Iran, pistachio growers, pistachios, about $1 billion a year with their crop. According to this agreement, specifically, pistachio growers are allowed to trade with the United States. Also, on the U.S. side of things, the aviation industry. Now, a lot of sanctions that the U.S. currently has with Iran will remain in place on a bilateral basis, but the aviation industry is allowed to sell licenses to Iran to build airplanes for their depleted fleet. So that's one U.S. industry that will benefit, Mark.
You know, it's interesting, Phil. I've actually been to Iran, and you know what I brought my father home? Pistachios, because he loves them.
And are they as good as advertised?
They really are. I also brought home some saffron. But to be clear, even if we do, even if this deal goes through and some of these sanctions that were put in place in 2012, it's not as if U.S. companies have carte blanche to do deals with the Iranians.
No, I think it's a really key point, Olivia, and it's one the administration's tried to make as well, that while there will be ratcheting back in sanctions, and I think the international sanctions regime, certainly as it currently stands, will come apart, U.S. sanctions very much remain in place. And that's why I think you point to the aviation industry as one of the few, if not one of the only industries that will actually benefit from this. When it comes to technology, when it comes to a number of different items, there are not a release of restrictions. Most notably, I think, when you talk about technology and obviously weapons, the U.S. bilateral sanctions with Iran do remain in place. So U.S. companies not seeing a huge benefit from this. But again, it's the European companies and European industries that have really been pushing for this. That is who will benefit most when it comes to the international component.